Stoked, son. Super, super stoked. We are live. So, welcome to today's episode, which are the top 5 type 2 diabetes secrets that have crushed every single diet I've ever done. Okay, like I am absolutely stoked to share this with you right now. In fact, real quick, before I say another word, let me get out a really quick disclosure. Okay, so I am not a doctor. I am not giving you diet advice. Okay, I do not practice medicine. I do not practice guitar. None of that stuff. Okay, so always do what your doctor tells you to do. This is for informational, inspirational, entertainment purposes only. Literally, I'm just a regular guy. What makes me night and day different from a lot of people, whether they're like diet, quote unquote, experts or whatever, is that, look, I don't specialize in type 2 diabetics. I am one, okay? And after literally failing like diet after diet, like literally being the token fat kid, the pun of the fat joke since I was like 9 years old, and failing every single diet that I've ever tried just to become diagnosed, then to be told that I was literally like 12 months away from starting dialysis. Unfortunately, being one of the people that actually had taken my grandfather to his dialysis, appointments, and ultimately watching him die in front of my family, I realized what would happen to not only my family, but countless other families just like mine, because we all know that if not controlled, type 2 diabetics leads to everything, or type 2 diabetes rather, leads to everything from going deaf, blind, amputations, kidney failures, heart attacks, stroke, coronary disease, right? And it not only kills people just like you and I every single day, like clockwork, it shatters families, for years to come. And so, more than anything, I'm stoked if you're with me right now. First and foremost, let me tell you right now that this is actually sponsored. Yes, it is sponsored by folks like you, okay? So if you want to see the highlighter trick that I used to literally not only like lose my first 75 pounds without any drugs, exercise, any hardcore dieting, how I'm able to completely and easily, how I went from literally shooting up twice a day, okay, and taking a half dozen pills and being told that I was 12 months away from starting dialysis to now being completely drug-free. I'm about 100 pounds down now, and how I'm able to do that with foods that I already love. You'll not only get the highlighter trick video that shows you how to do that, you'll also get a list of foods along with a whole bunch of Kickstarter recipes to kind of get you on your way. Naturally, you always want to share all of this stuff with your doctor, okay? Don't do any of this without your doctor. Your doctor is always going to be the golden rule, and that comes from someone who's an absolute hypocrite, someone who's probably the absolute worst at that, okay? Just being totally honest. Now, real quick, let me just go ahead and spit the podcast intro. Here we go. You ready? Hi, my name is Davis, and I'm part of a group you've probably never heard of. We're not defined by the medical condition that we have. And because we know that type 2 diabetes leads to everything from going deaf, blind, amputations, kidney failure, heart attacks, and strokes, we want all the possibilities to live the life that we deserve. Since we're fighting for ourselves, the people we love, and for one another, we have to play the game different. We have to play the game smarter. Because the faster we help one another improve our health, the faster we're saving lives. The faster we're saving lives, the faster we're saving families. And the faster we're saving families, the faster we change the world together. Now, if you ask someone stuck in the past, they tell you that what we're doing is impossible. Yet it's happening every single day. All because we chose life over type 2, and these are our stories. Dude, I am stoked. I almost want to scream right now. If I wasn't recording this right now, I'd be like screaming like stoked. Anyways, let's get right to it, okay? So, I got professional and made some notes, all right? Here we go. Top 5 secrets. We're gonna jump right into the meat and potatoes here, okay? Number 1, embrace the body and not a diet. And here's what I mean by that, okay? So I'm not gonna get into it again, but essentially, when I went to 2 different extremes. I started raw vegan, okay? And it blew up in my face. Nothing wrong with the vegan diet. In fact, I'm gonna show you some vegan stuff that I use to this day to help me drive down my blood sugar and my cholesterol, okay? Nothing wrong with, the vegan diet. I'll get into that here in a second, okay? It blew up for me there, and because of that, I went on this journey that basically took me to completely the other side of the spectrum, okay? Which was 0 carbs. So literally over here, you've got do not eat anything animal related, and then over here, you've got do not eat anything plant related. I did both, and ironically, both blew up in my face, and here's why. So yesterday, if you watched yesterday's recording or yesterday's podcast, if you will, I literally got into, how I have a friend that is Samoan, right? Who can eat anything, okay? And he just puts on muscle, and it's like, dude, what are you doing, right? And he's a finance professional, okay? Like, doesn't or at least now he's working out. Back then, didn't work out a bit, and here he is, jacked, looks like a football player, okay? I also have a Vietnamese friend, okay, who can eat whatever, and his metabolism, is totally like super quick. He's a smaller guy, and I've known him forever. He eats whatever the heck he wants, and he doesn't put on a single pound, okay? Like, raise your hand if you know anyone like that, right? Like, obviously, right? It's like, you son of a gun, like, why can't I have those genes, right? And it's funny because naturally we see all these different diets saying, hey, look at all these people, like look at the China study, and look at the Maasai, or look at the Inuit or whatever. And yeah, they're probably predisposed genetically to do that. Like, it's unfair. And I say that because here's what happened, okay? When I tried the vegan diet, what I essentially found is that I was listening the entire time, whether the vegan diet or the paleo diet or really any diet in between, to be totally honest and fair, okay? I would always focus on the outside. I would listen to everything from like all these different podcasts and all this other stuff, and I would never look at like myself, okay? And here's what I mean, okay? So if I had to go back and do the vegan thing, nothing wrong with the vegan diet, okay? Sure, I'd have like a lot of broccoli, a lot of like, dark leafy greens. I would probably, whenever I test myself, I do horrible with bananas, okay? I do horrible with apples, okay? Now, does that mean because I do bad with bananas and apples that everybody doing the vegan diet, they're like, Nazi aliens from, the other side of the world, like trying to take over the world? Like, no, that's stupid, right? Like, of course not, right? However, we see that all the time, okay? So that's why I say embrace the body. Why? Here's why. That entire time, as goofy as it is, I'm not the brightest guy in the world. I literally bang my head against the wall like a million times, looking outside instead of looking at my own blood sugar numbers. And here's why I say that, okay? If I had to go back to square one again, and let's say I totally started watching these, these documentaries and was like, started to get brainwashed on like everything animal related. It was like, the devil or whatever. And I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm like, all right, let me have this banana, okay? If I would have literally just pulled out my tester, which is over there, I don't want to grab it real quick, but anyways, if I would have pulled out my tester, tested it at breakfast, I would have known before lunch what was hurting me, okay? I wouldn't have had to beat myself over the head for the next 30, 60, 90 days, okay? And with the hardest part about that, okay, the part that really frustrates me, okay, is that, look, I don't have a problem failing like a diet, okay? Like, look, I've been always, token fat kid. Sure, it's a big kick to the gut when it comes to the, to the self-esteem and like all this other stuff. However, I'm a big boy. I'll pull up my pants and I'll get on with life. It's fine, whatever, right? Smack me in the face. It's probably not gonna be the first time, probably not gonna be the last, right? Life does that to every adult, okay? No worries, okay? The part that really ticks me off is when I look back, okay? And here, let's just make things fair, okay? If you think that this is 100% like vegan, okay? Today I was in a diabetic chat, okay, on Facebook, okay? And I made the lady a video just because it was too much to type out, right? And the lady, her blood sugar she was basically told about keto, right? Which is weird because for a lot of people that know me, I did keto for a while. I got a lot of wins, have a lot of friends in there. I still love that, that culture, that those people, all the wins that I got from there, even though I don't live by it necessarily more, same way that I still love vegan and paleo and, even a lot of zero carb, okay? Here's what I mean, okay? So this lady was told about the keto diet, okay? And she goes in there and she eats her breakfast, which was eggs and bacon, okay? Eggs and bacon. Okay, you're thinking like there's zero carbohydrate in there, okay, like almost zero. Maybe there's a little bit depending on how the bacon was cured or whatever, right? There might be a little sugar in there, but probably very little. Okay, if you have a few slices or whatever. Okay, and her blood sugar numbers I think jumped up to like the mid twos, or I know for sure one of the posts said something like low twos, and I think she maybe had a reading as high as like 300. Okay, now let's bring this full circle. Okay, so we're gonna start way over here, which is vegan, okay? And then in the middle, or even like maybe to this side, you've got like, keto, even though if you Google it, there are people that do practice, vegan keto or whatever, because, keto is a macronutrients protocol, right? 70% fat, 25% protein, 5% carbohydrate. Once you understand those macros and the building blocks, it doesn't really matter what food you use, you just make them fit, those macros or whatever, right? Anyways, and all the way to zero carb. And I say zero carb because what saved me was, and really kind of like brought everything to light for me, brought everything full circle, was a blog by the name of Zero Carb Zen, okay? It's a lady, so it's a blog for a lady who literally just failed, like diet after diet. Her body was going through all these different weird things. And she found with continual testing, okay, key words, continual testing, okay, that ultimately, because of the way her body had reacted with all these different foods, that ultimately a all-meat diet worked for her and she's thriving, okay? Now, is it fair to now go back to the lady who did the whole keto thing? She had bacon, okay? Oh, speaking of which, the whole Zero Carb Zen thing, Zero Carb Zen / pork, is what told me, because when I did this whole zero carb thing, I ate zero carbohydrates. My blood panel looked crazy. My inflammation markers were all crazy. I had high blood sugar. I didn't even eat any carbohydrates. I had high triglycerides. I didn't have any sugars, any carbohydrates. I'm like, dude, I did not mix high fat with high sugar. Like, how did this happen? Okay, simple. Some people, because what most diets ignore are our actual genetics and how our bodies respond to certain things, okay? She found, what she writes in her blog is that, hey, look, like people in this one group, it's actually called Principia Carnivora, phenomenal, very supportive. If you want to do the zero carb thing, very supportive group. I love that group. I'm part of that group. Because it's not about this diet is better than whatever. It's more about, embracing the body and finding out what really works for you, like what's the truth versus what's some guy yelling on a rock somewhere, right? So anyways, she was talking about how certain people in that group had high blood sugars whenever they ate pork, as well as high fasting numbers the day after, right? So obviously we want to be able to call that out and knock that guy out of the thing. Now, does it make every zero carb person like, a Satan worshiper or something? Like, no, like, of course not. Like, if our bodies react a certain way, it's dumb to start throwing rocks at strangers because of the food that they're eating, right? Like, that's stupid, right? Like, that's just not, it's not going to get anyone anywhere, right? So that's why I say embrace the body, okay? Like, embrace the body. The fastest way right now to really just kind of cut everything is to literally just look at our actual numbers. I'll tell you right now what really pisses me off and really kind of ticks me off, and it's really my own stupidity, okay, is that I did not test myself. So whether I was the vegan guy who drove my blood sugars through the roof, okay, with all the fruits and all the juices and all that other stuff that I drank, okay, or whether I was the zero carb guy that drove my blood sugars through the roof because I'm one of those people who just so happen to have a really bad taking to pork as well, okay? My goofball self, imagine if I would have tested on day one, okay, on breakfast, I could have had answers before lunch, not by listening to a podcast. The crazy thing is, podcast, video, blog, recipe, someone telling some really cool story. And the hard part is like whenever we read these case studies of like the Inuit or the Chinese or whatever, look, man, just like my Samoan friend who I wish I could stuff my face and put on muscle like he does, or my Vietnamese friend where he stuffs his face and like he doesn't gain a single pound. Like, it would be stupid for me to beat myself up because I don't get the same results as them, right? And we see that happening all the time, okay? So embrace our own body. Know your numbers, okay? Like, I'll tell you right now, like, one of the biggest things that we can ever do is to actually embrace the body and get to know our numbers. Because I'll tell you right now, if you're anything like me, like this isn't your first rodeo. You've probably tried like diet after diet after diet after diet after diet. And the weird part about it is we listened to all these other people, probably never took a second to like listen to what our body is actually telling us. And it's funny because for the longest time, I was always a token fat kid, and all these like health, specialists or trainers or celebrity dietitians or whatever would be like, yeah, like they would say all this other stuff, and I'd be like, woohoo, this sounds awesome. You know what I mean? At the same time, like they would always say, listen to your body. And like, I'm like, yeah, right, dude, I'm a fat guy. Like, what's it gonna do? Tell me to eat ice cream? You know what I mean? Like, what's that all about? The funny thing about testing is like, hey, I can stick something in my mouth and tip myself, touch it, and within seconds, okay? The funny part about that is even if you do the 3-step shortcut that we talked about, right? Like here's what I ate, here's what happened, here's what I'm gonna do next. Each time you test, it's like 30 seconds. So cumulatively, total work is like a minute and a half, okay? A minute and a half. Like, dude, a minute and a half. Now, if you're one of these people that have like the Freestyle Libre where you just push a button and it just pops up on your phone, like, dude, it's like literally like 1 second, right? That's why I say now is one of the best times for type 2 diabetics ever, because we can call the crap as quick as possible. Whenever we see numbers that jump crazy high like that, get on the phone, we can call our doctor, whatever it is, okay? Awesome. So number one, embrace the body. And, more than anything, take the time to, like, I'll tell you right now, like, it helps you make peace with a lot of things that we may have beat ourselves up with over time. I'll tell you, like, for sure. And then the minute that we start to get a little bit of traction, I'll tell you right now, this is gonna sound super corny, but I'm just being super honest. The second that I started playing with food and testing, and then I would keep seeing something that won, right, that was working. This is gonna sound stupid, but I'm just being honest here. Like, I would just keep testing myself just so I could see the number over and over and over and over, because that told me, like, yes, what you did was right. Like, yes, what you did was winning. And you know what's crazy is I had it in tangible blood, like proof, like right then and there, right? Like that's how I was able to shortcut the answers before my A1C. Why? Because if we all know what an average is, high, low, all the numbers in between, and I knew all the numbers leading up to it, it's like, yeah, no worries. You know what I mean? Like I already won before I even walked in the room, right? That simple, okay? So number one, embrace the body far more than any diet. Sure, people within a diet group may love you, but at the end of the day, okay, when we are by ourselves, or let's say God calls our name and it's that last 5 minutes or whatever, at the end of the day, we are ultimately responsible for what we put in our mouths, and we are ultimately responsible for driving the results that we get. Okay, so except for obviously like certain genetics, and if people cause cancer or something like that, like my heart is with everybody with a metabolic disease. Okay, so number one, embrace the body and not a diet. Number two, start with foods that you already love. Okay, if you heard the other podcast, I'm not going to get into it, but basically this all kind of dawned on me when I had like some keto Brussels sprouts. They were covered in garlic butter, Parmesan cheese and bacon. I ate them. My not a lot of bacon. My blood sugar was still normal, right? And I was like, wow, dude, what the heck is this? You know what I mean? Like I was far out of ketosis. I went way beyond, what the keto macros were I was supposed to be, or my macro profile for that day. And so anyways, yeah, start with foods that you already love. Same thing with a cheeseburger. I actually, my external hard drive blew up. However, my buddy Sergio was asking about it. I saved one video. The cool thing is, it's a video of me eating drive-through takeout burgers, and my blood sugar is normal the entire way, okay? Protein burgers, okay? But at the same time, I still ate the onions, I ate the tomatoes, I ate the pickles or whatever, right? I had some mustard on it. Like, dude, I had 2 of them, right? A whole bunch of calories or whatever. Normal blood sugar the entire way, okay? So if you would have been like Davis, if you would have took that, like, start with foods that you already love that just so happen to work with your blood sugar, okay? This also happened, obviously, if when I had, my dad brought over some brisket, I stuffed my face, thinking that I was just an idiot for overdoing it or whatever, checked my blood sugar was fine, okay? Easiest way, again, to call out the crap is to turn on the lights, okay? Turn on the lights. I really can't drive home just how empowering that is and just how important it is. Here's the deal, right? It's kind of like, here's the way that I now look at it. Number one, I believe that nothing should ever hold us back from all the chances to live the life that we've ever wanted to live and have the health that we've ever wanted, okay? And that two, we should never be held ignorant, stupid, or blind to anything that can ever help us, catapult us forward, and really just serve us ultimately more than anything, okay? And obviously, like if we know that like, high blood sugar is gonna kill us, like why wouldn't we want to know the number? You know what I mean? Like, is there any reason why I can ever go to another type 2 diabetic and be like, yeah, like we all know what high blood sugar does. Stay blind. Like, no, right? No, right? So yes, okay, number one, embrace the body. Two, start with foods that you already love that just so happen to work with your blood sugar. If you kind of like want a shortcut to all of that and see how I was doing it, again, you can see that on the highlighter video on lifeovertype2.com. Along with that, I think it's on the third or fourth day, you'll also get an email with a list and some Kickstart recipes to kind of get you to kind of like show you what I'm actually using, okay? Two, how I literally went, like the foods that I'm using that literally took me from morbidly obese. I think I still got like another 30 pounds to lose. I don't know if that's still obese. Let's just call it obese. So I went from morbidly obese to obese, right? Like lost like, I don't know, I'm maybe at like the 90. I'm actually, to be totally honest, like I think my peak was 315. I will now walk around at like 210, 211. Technically eclipsed the 100-pound mark, but for me, I tell myself in my head, I won't start counting until it hits 300 to 200. It's kind of give myself a little kick in the pants. Okay, so anyways, let's just make believe it's really like over 100, but let's just make believe. Lost nearly 100 pounds. Okay, went from shooting up, taking a half dozen pills, being told that I was 12 months from dialysis to now being 100% drug free. Am I saying that you're gonna be drug free? No. However, what I'm trying to do here is obviously help save lives and empower others with the same medical condition I have. So, secret number 3 is going to be, oh yes, make food work for you. Okay, so here's what I mean. Okay, so Colleen, my beloved friend Colleen from back in the days, asked for a chia seed, my chia seed pudding, recipe, right? So anyways, so chia seed pudding, here's what's cool about that, okay? So chia seeds, if you don't know, and here's what I mean by making food work for you, okay? Chia seed pudding is dessert, okay? Like I will stuff my face with chia seed pudding with, cinnamon, it's actually cinnamon chocolate chia seed pudding with walnuts on top of it, like gangster, like I will stuff my face with dessert all day, every day. Now, cool thing is when I say, use foods that work for you, here's what I mean. This dawned on me when I went online, and you can go ahead and try to do the same thing. I encourage you to do so actually, is to go online and look up Google foods that lower blood sugar, okay? Or Google foods that lower cholesterol, okay? What you'll probably find, one of those things on that list is chia seeds, okay? At the same time, so chia seeds got a lot of really good benefits, okay? It's a lot of fiber, okay? So I'll tell you right now, like if you're a type 2 diabetic and you have a really bad, if you've just eaten bad, like a bunch of Chinese food, pizza, just some janky stuff, or, pie, whatever, right? And you want to like clean out the juju, right? Kind of clean out the plumbing, like kind of push that stuff out. Dude, chia seed pudding will help you out, all right? Just make it super thick. If you make it loose, it's like whatever. But if you make it kind of thick, like choo-choo train, will kind of like push that stuff right on out. Get it out of the system. In fact, I'll be honest with you, you just might be surprised at how much weight you can lose just by clearing out the system, okay? The junk in our system. Nobody needs to be carrying that junk in the system anyway, okay? Feels good to get it out of the system, okay? The cool thing about chia seeds too is that helps lower bad cholesterol, okay? It's also high in omega-3 fats, okay? The healthy kind of fats, right? Good for the brain, good for the eyes, good for the skin, good for all kinds of stuff. Like, who doesn't want good eyes, right? At the same time, here's another thing, okay? When I say foods that work for you, one of the awesome toppings that we put on things with chocolate is cinnamon, okay? Cinnamon drives the blood sugar down, okay? And here's what I'm talking about when I say embrace the body also and not so much the diet. I'll tell you right now, there was a time in my life where I was totally paranoid when it comes to carbohydrates, okay? And to put things in perspective, actually that leads me to, secret number 4 is to ask what kind, okay? Ask what kind. That alone, if you ask what kind, and then you look at looking at your actual numbers, if you're paranoid from, oh, I can't have, fat or whatever. You got to ask what kind of fat, right? So for example, right, we go online, we can look up salmon, right? Also high in omega-3 fats, right? Also high in omega-9 fats, right? Good for the brain, good for the, good for the eyes, good for the skin, good for, who doesn't want any of that stuff? Also lowers bad cholesterol. I mean, dude, right? Like, why go and spend all this money on like fish oil supplements when you just eat this stuff, right? Simple, right? So yeah, ask what kind. At the same time, the reason why I say what kind is like I'm using foods that serve my purpose, like serve a purpose in a lot of different ways, right? So they're nutrient dense, right? I make the food work for me, and I'm eating foods that I already love. That way, to be totally honest, a big part of the reason why I share this is when I see people like just trying diet after diet after diet. Look, if you're anything like me, whenever we look at any diet and we look at, I'm not 20 anymore, right? So like, and I've been doing this since I was like 9 years old. You look at, okay, let's look back at like, I don't know, the original diets from back in the days, right? Like, like the Atkins diet or whatever. Granted, Atkins is still around or whatever, but of the people back in the 90s that tried it, how many people are still doing it, right? The frozen meals, right? Like who hasn't ever tried that diet before? Like that was huge in the 80s, right? Like frozen meal, right? Like who's still doing that? Not a lot of people, right? The shakes, 2 shakes and a healthy dinner. Who's still doing that? Like probably nobody, right? And at the end of the day, it's not so much about the diet or even like whole food type diets, right? Like let's call out like, back in the days, there was like South Beach is making a resurgence, but yeah, sure. Okay, cool. Mid 90s, 20 years ago, right? Back when like MC Hammer was cool, like who's still doing it? Probably not a lot of people, right? And it's nothing about the diet. We all kind of learn in high school. I'm not the brightest guy in the world, but I at least went to high school. We learned like this law of numbers, right? If you get 5, 10, 15, 50,000 people, that in there's going to be unicorns in there, right? Like some people are just going to play music really well. Some people are going to speak 5 languages. Some people are going to be able to, eat foods and like not worry about gaining a certain pound, like a single pound. And some people are going to find some diet and eat it every single day, every single meal for the rest of their life and be cool with it, okay? I'm just not one of those people, right? And it's just, for me, I just want to call that out because it's good that we learn and that we move and mature from any diet, or mature with any diet. It doesn't have to be from. If somebody goes in there and stays in there and like, just crushes it or whatever, like ultimately that's what this is all about. Lives being saved is what it's all ultimately all about, which is why I also call out the fact that if we look at the failure rates, we need to have an answer for them, okay? Which is why I'm sharing all this stuff, okay? So let me see here. So yeah, ask what kind, okay? And the reason why I say is there's a lot of paranoia about like, fat, and we go to like the health food store and then one of the biggest walls right now is like garlic oil and fish oil, right? Key word is oil. It's not garlic water or fish water, which sounds gross now that I say that, right? But why? Why is it? And it's because there's like also, and more than that, like why are there fat soluble vitamins, right? Like why does the body make it to where these vitamins are uptaken with fat, right? Like vitamins like A, D, E, and K, right? A huge reason why like avocados are a lot of different, I hate to use like fancy spam word like miracle food or whatever, but yeah, why is it so powerful, right? Well, yeah, because it's packed with a bunch of fiber, packed with a bunch of nutrients, vitamins like A, E, and K, right? At the same time, because it's also packed with healthy fats, it also helps with the uptake of other fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K, which if you're a type 2 diabetic, naturally, because our bodies don't react the same way they used to, right? Our mitochondria, the energy cells, if you will, or the energy engines inside of our cells, if you will, they don't work as well as they used to, okay? Some studies will say 50%, okay? So think about that. Energy engine at 50%, okay? I grew up, my dad had one of those, those box vans, okay? It's called the Blue Shack, right? It was a 78 Dodge van. Imagine if you got into one of those or a school bus as a kid and only half the motor was working, okay? It's kind of like that, okay? So when you give a type 2 diabetic the ability to now improve the uptake of other vitamins, like, yeah, probably a huge reason why, like, so many of us are like crashing with their energy or whatever. Yeah, it doesn't have to necessarily be that way, okay? Not, at least not for everybody, okay? And, genetically, or depending on where people are in that road, know right now, that is why I'm sharing, sharing this with you, because, hey, look, like, know first and foremost that you are, that I'm cheering for you, I'm rooting for you. You got this, okay? The other thing there is that ask all the questions, okay? No matter how stupid they might sound, okay? There's no such thing as a stupid question, okay? Just stupid people asking questions. No, I'm totally kidding. I'm totally kidding. But here's what I mean by that, okay? Super simple, okay? I knew for me, that I'm a screwball, okay? Like, I just don't have it together in a lot of different places. Like, for example, if you're like, D, take your medicines or whatever, I don't know what it is, and it's actually kind of a blessing. We'll talk about that in another video, but at least for me, it was a blessing. But yeah, I'm horrible at taking medicines, okay? And I just knew that for me, relying on a broken system for me was basically just a pattern of failure, right? And I'm the smartest guy in the world, so I'm like, okay, well, let me just wipe that off the table, right? And what really kind of like changed everything and empowered me more than anything was like looking around and seeing other people being able to improve their health with food and food alone. Now, let me be the first to tell you, I've learned from people like Dr. Adam Nally, right? A gentleman out of Surprise, Arizona, right? That, there's different levels of insulin resistance, okay? So much so that certain type 2 diabetics, their insulin resistance is so high that they've actually had their pancreas removed, and they're now going through the same interventions as a type 1 diabetic. Difference being is that type 1 diabetics, they don't, their body is still, receptive. A lot of times, obviously not everybody's the same, but is receptive to receiving insulin, right? Where a type 2 diabetic is adult onset, and it comes from overexposure to insulin. And basically, it's kind of like the little boy that cried wolf, right? So a type 2 diabetic, our bodies have told us, insulin has told our cells, hey, open the cells, we got food coming, right? And our cells are like, in the very beginning, we're like, okay, sure, bring it on. And because the insulin was just like, okay, we got food coming, okay, we got food coming, okay, we got food coming, what ends up happening, this is a layman's term, right? Obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll go ahead and put Dr. Jason Fung's presentation on it. Really helped save and helped me to kind of turn things around as well. Long story short, it's kind of like the boy that cries wolf. After a while, our cells are like, dude, I heard you, shut up. 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 Where, not necessarily not a lot of type 1 diabetics have that issue, okay? So, ask all the stupid questions, and also here's why I say that, okay? So, when I knew that there were all these other people turning their lives around with lifestyle changes, okay? Food, exercise, all this other stuff, and I'm like, wow, dude, like for real? Like I want to do that too, right? I then turned around to my provider at the time, and I was like, hey, have you ever done this before? Right? Now, look, I'm going to tell you right now, this is not a knock on her, because I'll say it again, I'll say it a million times, and I'll holler it from the rooftops. I would not be alive if it was not for her. Okay? So by no means is this a one person versus another. No, this is not. This is a reality in that there's all these, it's an entire myriad, if you will, entire spectrum of possibilities, and you have two people who can see it but have never done it, right? And so all I did, kind of like, and I'm not the brightest guy in the world, it's kind of like, hey, look, if I have a son and he's like in Little League baseball and I want him to go to the championships, I probably want to go to the coach and say, hey, how many times have you been to the championships, right? And if I have a coach that has like, 20 plaques on the wall and is like the #1 coach in the world or whatever, and as much as my son might be with the local guy who probably means well, but just has never got anything past I don't know, city versus regional versus state or anything like that, like, the odds are probably going to suck. You know what I mean? Like they can be there. They can definitely be there, but odds are going to suck that it's not going to win, right? So what I mean is like ask all the questions. Don't ever be afraid to ask all the questions, okay? And here's what I mean also, okay? This one's huge for me, okay? So I was shooting, at one time I was shooting up twice a day and taking a half dozen pills, okay? Because I'm horrible at taking my medicines, okay? Because I'm horrible, I'm inept at taking my medicines. I'm a screwball, okay? Because of that, we were basically like shooting dice, trying to find like a combination that would work, okay? Because I was sporadic with taking them. There were times actually where Michelle was like on my cheeks and I took them like a soldier, right? But even then, like the results sucked, or I would have all these crazy side effects because the meds just got stronger and stronger, okay? All the way to the point where I go to the local pharmacy, okay? And I guess the screen must have lit up like a Christmas tree because there's just all these different drugs, right? Because we're just trying all kinds of stuff, and certain this one combination was making me cough like uncontrollably, okay? And it was driving everybody in the office nuts, okay? And so anyways, I'm coughing uncontrollably, and all of a sudden the pharmacist is like, dude, can you just tell me what you're actually taking versus what you're not taking and like what's going on? I'm like, yeah. So I just told her everything, right? I was just like, yeah, I'm coughing uncontrollably and I'm doing all this stuff because, I was basically told that I'm like 12 months away, that if I don't change anything because I'm eating like a total goofball, that, I might likely start, dialysis within a 12-month period. And man, my grandfather, that's how he went out and all this other stuff, right? And the lady was just kind of heard me out. She's like, all right. And so, she kind of like goes through, right? And she just kind of stops and she goes, hey, and we'll get into this in another one. Okay, we're going to go deeper into this. And keep in mind, I am not a doctor. This is for informational, entertainment purposes only. Okay, this pharmacist is not working with you. Your doctor, that other provider is not working. This is not medical advice whatsoever. I'm sincerely sharing my story. Okay, that's all it is. Okay, it's entertainment value. Okay, so I go in there and I tell her everything. Okay, and so she walks me through my medicines. She's okay, you're not taking this, you're taking this, you're not taking this. No worries. Okay, and then at the end she goes, that whole dialysis thing. I'm like, yeah, and she goes, some of these medications that you're taking, can actually put a pretty big load on they're metabolized by the kidneys. And so they can actually put a very big load on the very thing that you're trying to protect. Okay. And I got it, but I didn't get it. Okay. And so I was like, she's like, yeah, basically you'd be almost like pretty much damaging the very thing that you're trying to protect. Right. And I'm like, oh gosh, that sucks. Right. And so long story short, my provider back then, right, the one who saved my life, right, she and her husband, they bought their dream home and they had moved on, and it was a bummer because, as much as she and I had this crazy rocky up and down relationship, at the end of the day, like she was dealing with a guy who just had emotional issues with food more than anything, who's, to be honest, because of that, I was completely irrational a lot of times, okay? Just calling it for what it is, okay? And so now I had a new provider who just so happened to be, I think, like the top person in that entire division, okay? And it's a pretty decent sized network. My wife, Michelle, works for a healthcare provider network, and one of the perks is she like hooks us up, me and the kids up with some of the best providers in the network, naturally, right? So anyways, the doctor, I asked her, or no, she asked me like, dude, why do you not like this stuff? Like, why? I can understand being irresponsible with taking medicines, but why are you almost like taking a stand almost against it? Now, obviously, I've matured since then, just like we all do. However, the truth still stands, right? At least for me. Okay, I'm not saying this is medical advice for you. Okay, this is just entertainment value. I'm just sharing my story. Okay, so turns around, and I'm like, well, yeah. I just told her the truth. I didn't know what to say. So I was just like, yeah, here's what the pharmacist told me. And she was like, well, why would she say that? And I was like, I don't know, let's call her. That was the first thing that popped in my head. I was like, she's telling me this about, the whole dialysis thing. And like, that's how my dad or my grandfather died. Like, I want to know the answer. Let's yank the cover off as fast as possible. Like, let's call her. And immediately it was almost like a direction change. And I'm like, yo, what gives? And it was almost put on my shoulders. Like, no, Davis, like, shut up. Like, why are you asking such a stupid question? Okay, like, what are you doing? Right? Like, what are you trying to prove? Or, I don't know. It was just a really weird feeling. I didn't get an answer. And when I asked for one directly, it was diverted. And so it was just this really odd feeling. And so, not saying anything negative about my provider, I love her. Like, she's awesome. I'm still with her. And so, long story short, I get home because now it's like in my head. It won't come out of my head. And so I started to look up the term, and it's called and actually this is going to be, we're going to go deeper into this the next one. But anyways, it's called nephrotoxic medication. Okay. That's why there's nephrologists, which is why I was a big fan of, Jason Fung, who's a nephrologist out of Canada, because for a lot of type 2 diabetics, kidney disease is huge. Okay. Again, if you know my story, I would have these tests ran on me. My prior provider was like, D, your kidneys are having issues, they're passing proteins, right? Which is how she saved my life. How she, she basically kicked me in the face or kicked my butt and slapped me in the face and got me to turn things around. The term is nephrotoxic medications. And what shocked me and what kind of blew me away is in the medical world, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but there's this term called the diabetic cocktail, okay? Diabetic cocktail, where people take blood pressure medication, diabetic medication, and cholesterol medication. Okay, and it's basically kind of, I don't want to say too much just because I'm not a doctor. However, the information that I heard from another doctor essentially is that they're interlinked, and that there's I'll just leave it there. They're interlinked one way or another for a lot of people, not for everybody, maybe not even for you. Okay, so nephrotoxic medication, and what I found is that for a lot of these statins, type 2 diabetic drugs and stuff like that, that they're on the nephrotoxic medication list. And I was like, dang, that woke me up. That really woke me up. Anyway, ask questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question. I sincerely believe with all my heart, okay, that nothing should ever stop us from achieving the health that we want. Nothing. We should never be held dumb, blind, or ignorant to anything that can ultimately help us. Okay? Or really just the truth about our health in general. Okay? And I say that out of genuine concern, because when my first provider told me that whole thing about, you're about 12 months away from dialysis, and even when I learned about the whole nephrotoxic medication thing, my grandfather was the type where if his doctor said something, he just didn't ask any questions. He just took it. And he's not here anymore. Okay. I'm looking to interview another gentleman who, did the same thing. Thank God, he was fortunate, thank God, that when one doctor drove him into a hole, another doctor switched his stuff around and is able to help him. Okay? So yes, ask questions. And I mean that 100% from the heart. So that is today's sermon, today's gospel message, if you will. Look, let me tell you, man, if you're fighting, whether you're fighting for yourself, what you believe in, the people that you love, know wholeheartedly that you're not alone. That as long as I'm alive, I'm rooting for you. That this medical condition, this metabolic disease, does not define you. And I think the worst part about it is the reason why they call it the silent killer is that, and I'm totally guilty of it too, is that we can be damaging ourselves from the inside out while feeling completely fine. And unfortunately, for a lot of people just like you and I, it goes on to the point before we even know it, the rug gets yanked out from under us, And for a lot of us, unfortunately, it's past the point of no return. Okay. And anyways, if any of this is meaningful to you, my heart is with you. I sincerely thank you. I'm humbled. Thank you. If any of this serves you any well, all I ask is that you share it. Okay. For more free information just like this, go ahead and subscribe on Life Over Type 2. And a quick note here regarding the next one, we are going to talk about nephrotoxic medication. I am not a doctor. I just want to share with you some resources. If you want to look them up now, one of them is actually from the Kidney Foundation. Okay, so it's not like some abstract doctor throwing rocks at the system. No, this is from the Kidney Foundation. Okay, and the other article is going to be from GoodRx, okay, a drug prescription fulfillment company, okay, educating others on what medications can have negative implications. Obviously, everything should be done with your doctor. Any changes to medicine, diet, exercise, or anything of that sort should always come from your doctor's care. I'm literally just a guy pouring his heart out, over the internet in the hopes that it helps save just one life. As goofy as this might sound, as much time as I may invest into all of this stuff, if we can literally just help turn around one life, one family, if it's you, if it's a friend of a friend of a friend from everyone sharing or whatever, it'd all be worth it. All right, so thank you. I'm out.